these are facts, because I looked into this because I too wanted to understand this very question, sir. This very question you ask is something that I have been deeply trying to figure out. And that if under the previous method, there were 400 distribution sites throughout the entire enclave, from south to north to west to east. Now there are only 4. One of them is under construction. So out of the 4 sites that have been built and that are there, one of them right now is under construction. So there are only 3 sites. So 400, 3. During the UN mechanism, 500 to 550 trucks a day every day were going into the enclave. Now, on average, under the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, based on their own numbers that they have said, they said that as of yesterday, 109 million meals. Well, if you break down meals per box, box per pallet, pallets per truck, to get that number, then over 78 days of distribution, they've averaged 18 trucks a day. 18 trucks a day versus 500 to 550 trucks a day. And they're all the same truck. They're all the same standard truck. They all use the same vehicle. It's not like, oh, well, maybe theirs are bigger trucks. Nope, same trucks. Looking at the, what was delivered in the UN aid: water, food, prepared food, perishable, non-perishable, vegetables, fruits, baby formula, diapers, hygiene products, medicine, educational materials, fuel, propane, you name it, all kinds of stuff. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the only thing they're providing are boxes of dried food good. Dried rice, dried lentils, some dried pasta, and flour. No water, no medicine. And John Conricus, who was with me on Pierce Morgan a couple days ago, even clearly said that yeah, we're not, it's not GHF's responsibility to provide water and medicine. I'm like, are you kidding?
He did say water was being provided by the IDF directly through
Yeah.
water pipes. I know
Not
John,
true.
while I've had him on the show a couple of times, it's not true.
No.
Would
one thing that the United Nations also provides that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation does not is something, with their humanitarian assistance, they provide people that do assessments to this very thing: sewage, water, electricity, construction, safety. They have people that are trained to go in and do these things to figure out, how do we get the central pump working again? How do we get the water to come in? So the water that's coming in, there might be an IDF place where water's coming in, but it's not servicing the entire population.
And the food that the GHF is providing Palestinians requires water to be eaten in the
Requires
first
it.
place.
You have to have water to cook it, right? Dried rice, dried beans, dried pasta, flour. You have to have water to cook all of those things. You also have to have fire or some type of heating component, which there's no propane and natural gas or fuel. That's at a very low amount. So we're giving them things to eat that requires water to make, and we're giving them no water at all.
You mentioned Jonathan, former IDF spokesperson. I've had him on the show a few times, I think twice, and I think I'd be more than happy to have him on as well. Just have a 3-way conversation, if you're open for it, Colonel, on the points of criticism or questions that you're posing right now, and I'd love to get his perspective on them. Again, if you are open to it. I know you and him spoke briefly on the Pierce Morgan show. It's very brief. I think a deeper discussion is needed. But I have a question. Are we criticizing the wrong party? Are we criticizing an organization that's trying to do good in Gaza, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation? Now, my team has invited the head of the foundation, the chairman, I think Johnny Moore, on the show, and I would love to get his perspective on this. Instead of criticizing the IDF for not allowing the UN to be able to operate along with other organizations and the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, is that a fair perspective?
In terms of criticizing
the
whom?
GHF is trying to do good in Gaza. They're not great. They're not as experienced as the UN. You can't expect them to be as experienced as the UN has been doing it for decades. But what is needed is for GHF, World Central Kitchen, UNICEF, etc., to operate in Gaza, but for also for the UN and UNRWA and other organizations to also operate, to be able to deal with the scale of the need of the population there. And would it be more fair to say to the IDF, open the doors for the UN to be able to support GHF and UNICEF and the World Central Kitchen as well? And that goes to my next question: is why is the IDF, in your opinion, not allowing the UN to operate in Gaza?
Well, from what I understand, the official reason for why the United Nations and UNRWA was shut down was because of the claim, the claim that they're infiltrated by Hamas, and 95% of what goes in on the UN mechanism is taken by Hamas. Um, so if that was the initial presumption as to we're not going to do this method because of this, so we're going to do this method, um, that that has been unfounded and discredited by not just by UNRWA but by USAID, by the U.S. government, by two different agencies or two different entities within Israel that did that assessment, and by the international community. That claim, there's no evidence of it at all. There's no evidence that that's happening. So to the same argument, you can make the same argument to say that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, that the aid they're bringing in gets taken by Hamas. If the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's argument is that Hamas is all over the place and it's Hamas, 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 well then it's also rational to think that they're also taking the aid. So both, if that's the argument you're making for one, then it should apply also to the other. But it's
And
been
you could also say
determined.
the solution to one could also be applied to the other. The solution to the GHF is to have a private organization like yours, or the one that you worked in for a short period of time, to offer security for the UN as well. That would be a better
So
solution
I, I,
than
I think
seizing aid
there's,
completely.
yeah, and you bring up a great point. There's room on the table to go to the drawing board, but regardless of how it's done, which mechanism, someone has to be in charge. You can't have too many cooks in the kitchen. You got to have a chef. You got to have someone in charge. I think who should be in charge of it. Let's say that if the GHF is within this process, World Food Program, World Food Kitchen, the GHF, others, that the United Nations should be in the lead. United Nations should be in charge because they bring all the other things into it. Remember, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is only providing food. That's one small aspect of humanitarian assistance. So there's the security component. I think what would be beneficial, that instead of having um, armed security at the sites themselves, is to establish security corridors where the aid can come in through areas that are already secured, that are, instead of having armed security on the trucks or armed security on the sites, you create these security corridors that are secured from the perimeter, where no bad people are coming in, to where these trucks can move freely without being mobbed, without being stopped, without being have their goods stolen. That can go to distribution sites that can get there safely through these corridors, and then distribution can occur on those sites with security, that's that's created like a security perimeter, if you will, not a to have people that are armed on the location. To have, the other thing is that with the sites themselves, that the the three sites that the GHF is operating out of their four, they're all three of them are in active combat zones. Humanitarian distribution sites that are delivering food or water or medicine are not to be put in areas that then require the population to traverse through active combat zones. And I think that if if the mechanism were to be successful, because there is a threat. I mean, I'm not discrediting that, but security corridors with secure locations that are secured, the area is secured, and we've done these things before in Iraq and Afghanistan. And for example, I remember this quite clearly in Iraq during the elections, post invasion. There was gonna be the about a year later, year and a half later, the first parliamentary elections, a big deal. And if people don't think that there was a threat in Iraq at the time, then they need to read, because Al Qaeda was fighting everywhere. We were getting hit from every direction. And on these polling sites, or these voting locations, the United States military was providing security, but we didn't put soldiers with guns on at the voting sites. We secured the area so that anything coming in had been checked and secured, so that you have a secure area. So I would recommend security corridors that allow the United Nations to flow freely, where the experts can do their expert work. Someone needs to be in charge. And I believe that the entity that should be in charge should be the United Nations. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, they don't, none of their staff and the people that they have in there have the understanding to conduct humanitarian assistance at scale. They just don't.
I want to give you two interesting facts. Number one, the UN has been offering aid since 1945. If anyone has experience, that would be the United Nations, right
I
after
believe
World War
so.
II.
80 years.
Exactly. Fact number two, the countries that have not allowed the UN to offer aid to people in those war zones. Number one, in Myanmar, Burma, which obviously you'd want to put in a bucket of its own with other countries like North Korea. Number two is North Korea. Number three is Syria during the civil war under the Assad regime. Number four is Ethiopia, Sudan, Yemen. So not countries you want to use as pinnacles of democracy or the right way of
Not
conducting
great.
themselves during times of war.
That's not a great team to be on.
Number seven is Taliban, and the last one is Israel. So I would urge, there's not many positions that I take in any, matter that I cover, but I would urge Israel to find other solutions to their concerns than just completely seizing aid from the UN.
That's a great point.
And I hope we see change over the next few months. Colonel, it's been a long discussion, pretty heartbreaking one as well. I've just got a few, 2, 3 final questions as we wrap up. The first one is, in that experience of yours in Gaza, what would you say were the biggest misconceptions that you've witnessed? But I want you to, if you can, mention misconceptions on both sides, pro-Palestinian misconceptions and pro-Israeli misconceptions. So you've already done a few on the pro-Israeli side. There is no starvation in Gaza. Hamas is stealing all the aid. You haven't seen one person, one armed person that was being hostile towards you guys in your entire time at UG, at the military organizations. And in the second point, you've seen starvation within your own eyes. Number three is the destruction you've seen in your own eyes. Is there any other observations you've made that would dispel any misconceptions on the pro-Palestinian side as well?
So to think that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is intent on doing evil, doing bad, I don't believe that's the case. What I'm concerned is that the driving component, because again, I've seen, like, it's a private contract. So when you have a private contract, you're contractually bound to what's in the contract. So things that, and conversations that I've had with people from Safe Reach Solutions. Again, I've never conversed with anybody under that's Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, because who are they? I've never talked to anybody in the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. So the 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 thought that it's just, that there's this is evil by design. I don't think that's the case. I think this is looking at the fact that delivering humanitarian assistance that's obligated by a for-profit contract, again, because the point was, why can't we give them water? Well, it's not in the contract. So that I don't think that the idea that, especially, what I want to say is, the American contractors on the ground, the U.S. contractors that I worked with, that are on the ground every day, for the most part. You mentioned it yourself, and I thought you pointed this out quite eloquently, that there's always a bad apple. There's always a bad actor in the group. They're not every organization's perfect. So within UG Solutions, the guys that have been hired to be armed security, are there some people that just should not be there? Absolutely, there are some bad. But for the most part, knowing these men, they truly do want to do good, but it's out of their control. They don't control the resources. I've been on the ground with these men where they look at the situation, they're like, oh man, we could do so much better. Like, we we should be doing this, we should be doing this, we shouldn't be doing that. And but it's out of their control. They have no agency in these decisions, but they are there every day, driving into threat, into danger, and I believe for most of them, with the desire to do good. Nobody wants to see the process fail. Well, no one from the security contractors that I worked with wants to see the process fail. I can't speak for others, but um, the guys that are on the scene doing work, they're good people. They're good Americans. They're good humans trying to do good work. And the limitations in what's going on for them is not on them. It's on the leadership. And yeah, I just wanted to everybody know that the guys on the sites out there that are doing it, genuinely care. That picture of Amir when that young boy kissed the hand of the contractor that was next to me before he kissed my hand, that contractor there, is another American, another human being who's there, who believes that we're trying to do some good. And I really want the world to see that the guys that are there, the men on the ground every day that are there delivering or distributing the aid and putting their lives at risk, do mean well. And the decisions that have been made and the situation that they've been put in is not their fault.
One final question, Colonel, is there's a story I've never really told publicly. So I was born in Lebanon. I migrated to Australia as a child. So I've lived most of my life in Australia. And I remember the 2006 war between Israel and Lebanon, or Israel and Hezbollah. And it was a pretty tough period for me because my dad's side still all live in Lebanon. My mom's side left during the Civil War a long, long time ago. And so that was a pretty tough period of time. And then right after that war, I was doing martial arts. I was a child. I was very young. I was doing martial arts. And my trainer was a former IDF member who was in Lebanon during that period of time. And great guy, me and him clicked. So I don't see through cultures. I don't see through nationalities. There's good people, bad people in every culture, in every war, in every country. But for me and him, we became relatively close. Great guy, and he was an example of how not every soldier is the same. And my experience over the last 2 years covering the Gaza war has been very similar. I've had IDF members that were very critical in the way the IDF handled the war. I've also had IDF members. I had one IDF member, Air Force member, who was talking about, he's making the argument with Palestinians on the panel as well, that he would